On your Wednesday episode of Locked On Raptors, it feels a little like the Toronto Raptors are in a time loop anytime they play a good team. And while it stunk to watch it unfold last night, maybe that's a good thing in the grand scheme of things.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors. It is Wednesday, March the 4th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Raptors now for 12 seasons on various platforms. You know where to find my stuff. I'm on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. As always, link in the description of the podcast, and it's free to join our listener community over there. And today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. And we're off and running here on your Wednesday episode of the show. A bit of a somber edition after yet another Toronto Raptors loss to a very good team. And once again, that very good team is the New York Knicks, who have now won 12 consecutive games against your local basketball team. And it didn't seem like it was necessarily a sure thing that the Knicks streak would continue when the Raptors were making a furious fourth quarter comeback in the first half of the fourth quarter last night, at least. But end of the day, kind of a similar script for the Raptors. We'll get into why that was. We'll talk about the starters actually being kind of a beacon of hope and light in this game. We'll get to the good, the bad, and the as we always do. But yeah, we got to just kind of start off here. Look, the Knicks are really good. We should start there, I think. That's kind of an important thing to get out of the way. As much as we like to sort of toil and feel despair when the team we like loses, you have to give some credit and some agency to the other team on the other side. And the Knicks are just like a really fine-tuned machine of a basketball team, and they are still my pick to win the Eastern Conference. And I think we saw the reasons why last night. Their offense just finds a way. Even in a half where the Raptors held the Knicks to 38 points in the final 24 minutes, when it came down to nut crunching time, for lack of a less visceral term, it was just Jalen Brunson doing his thing. Karl Anthony Towns, big clutch mid-rangers, and they're just like a really, really tough team to slow down. There's options everywhere. Their second, third, fourth, fifth options are all viable. Everyone can shoot. And look, I think the Raptors did a lot of good stuff in this game, and I'm sure we'll touch on that throughout. But this was very much a game where the sort of recurring issues, the sort of systemic issues with the team and the way it's built were very much put on blast once again. And look, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in the grand scheme either. I think it's better that the Toronto Raptors are getting it very plainly spelled out for them in the clearest, plainest English you could possibly have it spelled out in, that there are some needs with this team, in particular guard creation, shot creation, something from nothing shot creation from somewhere on the floor that they just sorely lack late in these games. And I think when you're up against a team with Jalen Brunson, who's one of the single best guys at that thing, and he's the reason why you're just not able to hold on, even though you made a spirited push to start the fourth quarter, it just, it becomes plainly clear that there's got to be some form of upgrade here at some point in the summer, next season, whenever that opportunity comes along. That's not to say that what is happening right now, the 35-26 basketball team that's been a top 10 defense all year, that's been a lot of fun to watch, that's had some really interesting developmental stories, from Scottie Barnes doing what he's done this year, to Colin Murray-Boyles as a rookie, to Immanuel Quickley figuring things out over the last half of the season. Like, it's been a lot to like this year, a lot to enjoy. And, our pal S. Barrett from the Athletic NBA Daily and Raptors Republic kind of posted this last night. The notion that, this feels very 2013-14-ish for the Raptors, where they struggled against good teams, they beat up on the bad teams, and eventually they lost in the first round. And yeah, that does kind of feel where this is headed, right? Like, it does feel like it's going to be pretty insurmountable for the Raptors to beat one of the Cavs or likely the Knicks in the first round. And that's ultimately disappointing in sort of the grand scheme of this season. In the larger picture, I don't think it's that big a deal, because the expectations coming into this year were not even, I think, at that level. It was, let's hope we can get into the playoffs or the play-in. Like, can we just show some competitive on-court basketball and kind of learn some stuff? And boy, howdy, we're learning some stuff, man. We are learning that there's got to be some sort of talent infusion, some shot creation infusion at some point, whether it's you make an RJ Barrett plus stuff trade in the summer and use your bullets that you have with all your picks available, whether it's, maybe it's an upgrade on Immanuel Quickley himself. Maybe it's you find someone in the draft and really hope that he pops, whatever it is. Like, they need some form of offensive initiation that they just don't have right now. And that keeps on rearing its ugly head late in these games. And again, like, the Raptors defend very well. They held the Knicks to just, 43 points in the second half. It wasn't 38. It was 43. A really, I think, spirited defensive effort in the second half overall. But when you also only score 13 points in the fourth quarter to supplement that, it just, you run out of steam. And look, this was a game where the Knicks threw a lot of wallops at the Raptors, and I think credit to the Raptors. Like, there were 4, 5, 6 times within this game where the Knicks go on a run in response to the Raptors going on a run, and it just kind of felt like, okay, well, now it's over. Okay, well, now it's over. Okay, well, now it's got to be over. And credit to the Raptors, man. They did not let it just kind of slip away like it has in previous games against the Knicks, right? Where they, think back to the NBA Cup game. They had that beautiful first quarter, similar to last night, Brandon Ingram absolutely going off. And then they just kind of totally lose the rope for the last 3 quarters. And the Knicks just kind of keep on sucker punching them into submission. In this game, the Raptors responded to the wallops. And look, you can say it's sort of cope. You can say it's, happy fun time Sean being happy fun time Sean, very on brand. But they genuinely are making some progress when it comes to how they play these good teams. We saw it in the fourth quarter surge against the Thunder last week. The game they played against the Spurs up until that brief stretch at the start of the fourth quarter, and kind of after that too, they played a really good game against the Spurs. They had their chances to win against a really damn good basketball team. And against the Knicks last night, they had their chances. And yet it's just this thing where obviously when you're punching up and you have a talent deficit, the margin for error is slim. And as much as they responded to the many punches the Knicks threw in this game, they also just kind of, unforced gave up a lot of clear hits to their chin, right? And kind of put themselves in a bit of a pickle. You think in the fourth quarter where, you have this great run, it's 95-93. They come out of the timeout and, it looks like, oh, well, Scottie Barnes, wide open corner 3, misses. Oh, damn, that's too bad. But good look, good process, all that stuff. He hit a 3 earlier in the game. You felt maybe good about that one going down. I thought from my angle, sitting in the corner in the lower bowl, looked like it was going in. Didn't go in. Oh, well. You come back the other way, and RJ Barrett, after one of the most stirring 6 minutes of basketball he's played as a Raptor in the first half of the fourth quarter, just completely falls asleep, loses Mikal Bridges, who's just kind of traipsing up the court, and back cuts him for a lob dunk. And it's okay, well, that's disappointing. And then Jalen Brunson comes down the next time down and bangs a pull-up 3. Just throughout the game, all these kind of little unforced errors. I mean, in the third quarter, you had Brandon Ingram. The crowd's absolutely juiced. They're feeling it. It's been a really, I think, the Raptors badly needed anything from their bench in this game, and they got a pocket of 4 minutes of getting something from the bench in the third quarter. And then at the end of the frame, Brandon Ingram just walks it up way too lackadaisically, and they get an 8-second violation for no reason whatsoever. And then he gets it stripped the next time down, kind of trying to do too much at the end of the clock. And they don't get out of the quarter with, the couple of extra possessions that they badly could have used. Just sloppy, lack of focus. It's all kind of very rote and cliche stuff. But when you're playing against a damn good team in the Knicks, you can't have those lapses. And look, I don't even disagree with the sentiment from Darko after the game, where it's this is all how you learn and grow and take your lumps. And I think that is a really healthy long game view to have. And I think considering the expectations coming into the season, I don't think I need to see Darko get out here being super, apoplectic about stuff when it's going wrong, especially against good teams that you're just not expected to beat. But I understand why it can get frustrating, that it's not quite a balm for what ails you in the moment to hear that, because it's just the same thing happening over and over and over again. It's a bit of an exhausting cycle. It's a bit of a tired script at this point. And again, as much as there has been progress in how they've played these teams over the last couple of weeks, eventually, if this keeps on happening against the good teams where it's the same script, fourth quarter falls apart, or you have to sort of lean on a fourth quarter comeback because the first 3 quarters weren't there for you, that's just going to eventually get tired, and maybe won't get fully tired, and sort of, the excuse won't get totally run out of runway until next season when things get a little more serious and you try to, improve upon what this year was. But yeah, it's again, I have no issue with Darko saying that, because I think in the grand scheme, it's true that this is all just kind of learning for a team that's still learning how to win. But totally understand if you're a little bit peeved about that, and that's like not what you want to hear in the moment if you're a fan, because yeah, it's been a little bit of a recurring thing here that's just it's troublesome. And hey, like, look, man, it'd be really nice to have a guy like Jalen Brunson on the team. He's just damn good. The Knicks are really good. Ultimately, again, like, that's going to be the prevailing takeaway from this season, right? And it's something that's just been hammered over the head 100 times, and that's good. It's better that these things are getting noticed now as opposed to kind of going under the radar for whatever reason. The Raptors kind of playing above their heads and not having their issues exposed. It's way better to have it this way, because there's a clear and defined picture of what they are, what's good, what's working, and what's not. And then you put it in the hands of the front office going into the summer. And if you go into the summer and the front office can't make the clear moves or sort of put themselves in the position to make the moves they need to address the very clear and plain and obvious issues, then you can get mad and stuff. And that's what we all like to do, isn't it? So yeah, it's there's a lot of clarity right now about where this team is at and what they need and what they are and what they aren't. And last night, just some further proof. It would be really nice if at some point they could kind of, throw a little murk into the picture by winning against one of these teams. What an idea. Hopefully they can get to there. And hey, if the starters keep playing like they have of late and like they did last night, maybe they'll start to actually pull out these results. We will talk about the starters and where you can find some solace with what they've done coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, wondering if they really are going to get to your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in a meeting in a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right by that real person. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Back at it here, talking Raptors Knicks. Before we continue and talk about the starters, who were quite good last night, just a reminder, another thing that's quite good is the Locked On Raptors Everydayer Club. Come hang out. Link in the description of the podcast. It is $5 a month, $50 for the year. You get ad-free episodes of the show, which is a great thing. And you also get access to our Locked On network-wide Discord with listeners of Locked On shows from across the globe talking ball. And yesterday, in the Locked On NBA chat, the NBA news and chit-chat channel over on the Discord, we were going off about old Raptors box scores. It was a ton of fun. Just shooting the breeze with people who like the hoop. It's great. You can come hang out. There's a World Baseball Classic chat in there now too. I think that starts today. So that's very exciting. Yeah, we'd love to see you. Come be a part of our Everydayer Club and check out the Discord with Locked On listeners. It's a lovely group chat that is not, the hell website to go and talk about sports among friends. Okay. The starters, let's get into them, because boy, oh boy, they were really good last night. And look, I don't want to sit here and act like, the game, because it got out of hand in the last couple of minutes, like there wasn't a lot of good stuff that happened in this game for the Raptors. Again, similar issues, stuff we know, stuff we've been talking about all season long, sure, but also something we haven't been really able to talk about all that much this year is the performance of the starting lineup, because Jakob Poeltl and RJ Barrett missed a big chunk of time in the middle of the year, but we're starting to get a pretty clear and rather large sample. It's just the Raptors starters kind of kick ass, and that is a lot of fun. And it was a really, really good night last night for the starting five up until the final 3 minutes, which, like, I think the game was kind of out of hand at that point, and like a full minute of those 3 minutes was one extended Knicks possession, which that lies on the Raptors for not getting a defensive rebound. But I think the damage had been done before those final 3 minutes when Immanuel Quickley came back in. And we'll get into why I had some issues with the rotation patterns in the fourth quarter a little bit, but all told, really good stuff from the starters. Really great start. They were up 19-3, 13, that is, a +6 in their first almost 6 minutes of action. They come in the second quarter after the team was just kind of listing a little bit, and they go on another run, quick 6-0 run. I think they tied up at 37 after that. And then, every time they were on the floor, it just felt like they were cutting back into the Knicks lead and threatening. And all told, they finished a plus 11 in a game the Raptors lost by 16. That is pretty impressive. Like they were very effective in their minutes. And the offense is just really good with this lineup right now. And again, it's now growing into a pretty serious sample, 460 possessions over the season, north of 200 minutes, and they have 126.3 offensive rating. The defense has not been amazing. It's a 118.7. You'd like that to be better, but they're a plus 7.6 net rating overall per clean the glass. That's very good for a high usage lineup. And that offense being 86th percentile good at 126.3, like, that's something. I don't know what it is, and maybe it doesn't mean anything because they keep on losing these games and not being able to score at that clip in the final crunch time moments of games. I do think it maybe hints at something I've been talking about a lot this year, where I think they kind of change their offensive process too much late in games and get way too ISO heavy and way too Brandon do something late in games. And maybe this is an argument to just kind of play the way the starters tend to play a little bit more sort of freely, and we're committed to what they tend to do. Because I think, like, they create good stuff. Everyone in that lineup can do something with the ball, whether it's, Poeltl creating from the elbows as a passer, whether it's Quickley or Barrett working handoffs, working pick and roll. We know Ingram, we know Barnes and what they're capable of. Like, there's not a ton of traditional spacing in that lineup. Ingram and Quickley, when they're hitting their threes, it really is what makes it sing. And that's what we saw in particular in the first quarter last night when they were really cooking. But like, there's enough there, and there's enough advantage creation. There's enough driving ability. There's enough sort of understanding of space and spatial awareness and interior passing to make it work. And it's a really good lineup. And again, I thought I was a little disappointed that they didn't get the call just to close the final 5:26 of the game last night. And look, I get it. You got to manage minutes. And Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett played really good basketball to start the fourth quarter. Frankly, again, the Raptors in the first half were screaming for any non-starter lineup to do anything. Even just like combinations of 4 starters plus 1 bench guy were getting wrecked. Third quarter, fourth quarter, at least first half of the fourth quarter, like, they found that. And the IQ, Poeltl, and RJ trio that was out there with a couple of bench dudes, like I think it was Shed and Walter, that was making it happen at the start of the fourth quarter. And it was really fun to watch and really encouraging that they were able to carry those minutes and not get waxed like they did last week when Scottie and Ingram sat at the start of the fourth against the Spurs, and they more or less lost the game in those minutes. And so progress there, encouraging stuff there. But again, the starters, I thought probably should have just closed out crunch time. It's the Knicks, man. Like, they're a really good team. And if you want to win against the really good teams, you kind of got to ride your guys a little bit longer than the Raptors did. I get you got to manage Quickley's minutes, but he played 33 minutes in this game. If you play in those final, he came back in at 3 minutes left in the game. He sat between 5:26 and 3 minutes, where a lot of bad things happened. I talked about the missed Scottie 3 and the RJ fall asleep in transition and the Brunson 3 that made it 193. I think if you had Quickley on the floor in those minutes and just ran with the starters, like, I think they deserved that run over the final 5:26. Again, I understand you got to manage minutes and guys get tired and stuff, but if you want to beat the Knicks, like, you might just have to be tired. I think it's maybe kind of how you got to look at it. And, the other guys' minutes, Ingram, Barrett, Barnes, 37, 36. Like, I think Quickley only playing 33. Probably should have played a little bit more, because I did think Jamal Shed struggled quite a bit in this game. He had his moments defensively, but offensively just kind of wasn't it. And so, yeah, like, the starters, like, there's something there. And you need a bigger sample. You need to see how it holds up in the playoffs. You hope that last night is not kind of like a microcosm of what it will be over the course of regular season into playoffs, where it's like, oh yeah, it's all good, they're scoring a bunch, and then things get really serious at the very end, and oh god, they can't score. Like, there's a possibility that happens, that the Raptor starters just get completely skunked in the playoffs. This is why we play the playoff games, to see what's working and what doesn't, and get some more clarity as far as what's needed in the offseason. But I think, that lineup last night played like a lineup that's earning the amount of money that lineup is earning. And I think that's got to be at least a little bit encouraging. There is just a lot riding on those guys within this team right now. They need more bench help. They need guys to fill in the gaps. And on nights where you just don't get a lot from Mamu or Jamal Shed or Jacoby Walter, I thought was really rough in this game, and a game that was badly calling for Jacoby Walter. with all of that, with the struggles of the in-between lineups and the mishmash lineups between starters and bench guys, the starters won their minutes by a ton when they were on the floor, and they looked like a wrecking ball in offense. And that is encouraging and good. And I do not hang this loss on them. Those final 3 minutes, the game was pretty much lost by that point anyway. And so, yeah, get more sample on that, man. This is what it's for. And I think, again, the offense being as good as it's been, it's sort of, again, some of your parts, right? All of the pieces in that lineup, maybe you wouldn't suggest, oh, those are guys who are going to be huge parts of a really effective offensive lineup, but you stack enough talent and, skill together, and all of a sudden you're able to, nudge out a pretty good offense, and it looks pretty good when they do it as well. Having Jakob Poeltl out there, man, like they're humming on offense when he's on the floor since he got back, and that is a really, really encouraging sign. And hopefully the starters can carry this over, and hope they can get some bench help at some point, because the bench was just not there. And we'll talk a little about that coming up in the good, the bad, the as well, which we will get to in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. And look, there's nothing quite like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part has not always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. Puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. I do it all the time. I use Game Time for all kinds of sporting events, whether it's baseball tickets on the road or Blue Jays tickets in the summertime. I love going down to Blue Jays games. Probably going to go to a lot this year now that the boy is a little bit older and can kind of take in the sights and sounds. We have cute little earmuffs for him to protect him from the very loud fans beckoning every second, and the very loud music. But that's great. We can buy tickets and take our way down. And hey, if we have to leave a little early because of traffic or because the kids got to sleep, well, that's okay, because we didn't pay that much, because Game Time is going to get you the very best prices. They have zone deals where you can choose the section, and Game Time will pick the seats, and you save money. They have great last-minute options with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices right before tip-off. It's a great app. I use it all the time. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Down the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Down the Game Time app today. And remember, it's GameTime.co, not GameTime.com. GameTime.co. Go check it out. Okay, wrapping things up here with the good, the bad, and the It's how we wrap up every single episode of this here podcast on the heels of a Toronto Raptors basketball game. A thing I liked, a thing I didn't like, and this got me a little bit intrigued from the latest in Raptors hoops. And the good for me in this game, Brandon Ingram's first half. Man, sometimes you're just cooking, and Brandon Ingram was just cooking to start this game, and he was a lifeline for the Raptors. He was the biggest reason why the offense performed the way it did. Maybe they shot a little over their heads, but I think the process was sound and good. They got him loose with a couple of interesting sets. They had him with the catch and shoots. He took 5 threes in this game, hit 3 of them. That's great. He has his limitations, which we'll talk about in just a second here, but I thought it was a really, really effective scoring half from Ingram, and some of the footwork, the craft, the pump fakes, the craft around the rim. It's really impressive stuff, and it's a lot of fun to watch him when he's in his zone. It's not always my favorite brand of hoops necessarily, the sort of slow it down mid-range merchant stuff, not always been my cup of tea, but he's made it quite entertaining this year when it's really worked, and it's been a huge part of why the Raptors have just kind of found a baseline level of competence. So Brandon Ingram's first half is 100% my good. My bad is Brandon Ingram's second half. Just wasn't as good in the second half. He had that truly baffling 8-second violation that I wasn't even really paying attention sitting in the arena watching this one, because I was just like, oh, okay, possession over. They get the ball. Now they're going to walk it up the court and start a new possession. I'm maybe going to jot a note down during the 5 seconds it takes to get the ball up the court. Turns out it took 8 seconds, and they didn't quite get it to half court just because Ingram was out for a walk. Yeah, it was bizarre. Really, really weird one, and not what you want to see. And then again, I think the possession after that, where he kind of forced things and got turned over to close the quarter, kind of sapped a little bit of that juice. And hey, credit to the Raptors again. They took that punch, or sort of the self-inflicted punch, and then they had a really great start to the fourth quarter. That was cool. That was great. And then it all fell to crap. And a big part of why it fell to crap too is just you lean on the Brandon Ingram mid-range shooting to keep you afloat, and then if it falls off at any point in the game, gets a little dicey, right? And I think that's kind of what we saw. I think he went 1 of 5 to close this game after starting 10 of 15. And, the couple just kind of bricky mid-rangers late in the game. And I think they just kind of lean on that a little bit too much as a core tenet of their offense. I think Ingram working off ball is something I'd like to see a little bit more in these late game situations, just as someone who is a very good 3-point shooter and we've seen is like devastating attacking a closeout. We're maybe getting a little bit too much of the do something Brandon offense. And that's been, again, a through line of the entire season and something that's been very clear throughout. But second half, Brandon Ingram, not as good as in the first half. And I don't think that's me telling tales out of school. And the for me is, look, the Raptors starters being great. It's awesome. They found some bench pieces this year. Colin Murray-Boyles has been awesome. Jamal Shed, by and large, even though his shooting splits are not so good, has been, I think, an effective player, if a little overextended in the role they're asking him to play. Could use more guard help. There's, Mamu's been a revelation, although he's been on hard times over the last little bit here, and we'll see how he holds up against the good competition, against the playoff competition. Like, that's getting a little bit more interesting as far as what his next contract's going to look like, considering his performance of late against the good teams, and we'll see how that tracks. Still, obviously, like, you get a little bit of Mamu, like that he hit a 3 in this game. They get a nice finish on the run as well. No, he missed his only. He was 0 for 1 from 3. Never mind. I thought there was 1 3 he took that I was like certain was going in, and I memory hold it, and it did not go in fact. But yeah, anytime he does anything, right? He had that one stretch in the quarter where he hits like 4 rebounds in the third quarter, was all over the glass, helping prevent Mitchell Robinson from, killing them on the offensive glass. Like, you hold Mitchell Robinson to, what did he get? Just 2 offensive rebounds in this game, like 7 offensive rebounds as a whole for the Knicks in the game. Really good stuff for the Raptors in that regard. And Mamu was a big part of that, but like, you got to get more from the bench guys, and you got to start finding some diamonds in the rough. Like, I was really, really impressed with Mo Diawaras last night for the Knicks. And this is not me doing the whole, well, that guy on the other team hit 2 threes against me, therefore he's an all-star, which I think a lot of Raptors fans do. But like, he was good in his minutes, played good defense, hit a couple threes, and he's just someone that they kind of got on a 2-way and found and turned into something, right? And it's been a little bit since the Raptors have like turned a 2-way into something real, right? I mean, Jamison Battle's been helpful, but he's probably like a 12th man specialist in an ideal world, not a 10th man that you're kind of leaning on for regular rotation minutes. And he only played 5 minutes last night. Thought that was kind of justified. He didn't play particularly well when he was out there. But like, if you can start to fill out your bench, and this is so necessary when you have an expensive starting 5. And if the starting 5 is in fact very good, then you want to try to fill it in with, the cheap sort of cost control guys at the back end of the roster. You got to start finding some of these wins like the Raptors very much used to back when they were a championship contender, right? Like, it just kind of is what it is. And, whether it's through shrewd signings and getting more of the Mamu type guys, or finding diamonds in the rough in the second round, or signing guys undrafted, 2-way guys, like 1 or 2 of these guys hitting would go so far to just kind of rounding out the roster. You don't want this to turn into a situation where you're like the Nick Nurse end stage Raptors, where it's like, we got 5 guys we like and everyone else is kind of terrible, so we're going to ride those 5 guys for 40 minutes a night. Like, you don't want that to have to be the case. Thought they maybe should have done that with the starters last night. And again, it's not to say Mo Diawaras is like some kind of wizard. He's fine. He's averaging like 4 points a game. It's nothing incredible, but like, they're getting good minutes from Landry Shamet. They're getting good minutes from, Jose Alvarado. Obviously, is his own thing. He's very good, and he was a deadline addition. But Shamet, kind of figuring things out this year. Plus, what they've done with Diawara, and in the stretch from Tyler Kolek earlier in the year and stuff like that. Like, you just got to find these guys at the back end of the bench to just kind of round yourself out, and make yourself into a 12 deep team as opposed to a 9 deep team. And because you're just not always going to get your bench guys doing everything that you need, right? You're just not going to get Jacoby Walter hitting 4 threes and scoring 19 points every single night, as much as you'd like that, maybe in the future. But right now, it's very much an up and down enterprise with him. Grady Dick is obviously way out of favor at the moment. So yeah, and again, it's not like an existential thing for this year. Things are still fine this year. Things are still grooving. It's all still pretty much gravy at this point, and making the playoffs, being top 6, having a guy in Scottie Barnes who's probably going to make the first team all defense. Like, it's a lot of good that's going to come from this year, and a lot of things to build on, and a lot of stuff that they will very clearly have to kind of have in mind as they continue to shape this thing going forward. And once again, I'll say it again. Like, I think it's good that they are getting such an obvious taste of what's needed, as opposed to sort of like a veiled Mickey Mouse season where Maybe you get incredible schedule luck throughout the entire season and only play good teams when they're riddled with injuries, or you have like ridiculous shooting variance that gets you a couple wins against teams you maybe shouldn't beat, or whatever. You catch teams at the wrong time while they're hurt. Like, I think it's good that they're getting a pretty clear helping of humble pie, as it were, and a very clear sort of directive as to what has to come next. And that doesn't mean you can't enjoy what's to come for the rest of this year. There's a lot to still enjoy. There's going to be a lot of tight games against good teams down the stretch, one would think. Playoffs, all that stuff. There's plenty to root for and like and enjoy. Even if you know what the end result might be, that's fine. It's step one towards something hopefully better down the line. And they've gotten all the clarity they need on what needs to come after this, I think, based on what we've seen so far. Again, if they had some games where they beat good teams and made things a little less clear, I would not be too upset about that. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for rocking with the show, following, subscribing, rating, reviewing, telling a friend. As always, it's much appreciated. We will talk to you again on Thursday, and we're going to be joined by our pal Trill Bro Dude from You Know Ball. We're going to play a little game called Who's Better? It's that simple. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And in the meantime, you can follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, join the Discord, link in the description of the podcast. You can also join the Everydayer Club, $5 a month, $50 for the year, ad-free episodes, plus access to our very fun Locked On Network-wide Discord. Come talk about the World Baseball Classic, would you? Mike Soroka's pitching for Canada on Saturday. That's going to be fun. And yeah, we'll leave it there. Have a great rest of your day. Talk to you Thursday. Bye-bye. Oh my God, I'm so off.